Chapter 1370, 6 Blood Sacrifice of the Whole City. Blood sacrifice for the whole city. Jang couldn't help but feel a chill on his back after hearing these 4 words. What do you mean? Does the prince's wedding mean that all the people in Nash country will be killed? Huan nervously pulled the corner of Zhang Yi's clothes, shook his head in panic, and said, No, it's not the 3-eyed people who are going to be killed, but us humans. Zhang Yi has seen that in Nash country, those impatient 3-eyed people picked up their knives, guns, sticks, and clubs and rushed to various places in the city. They bent down and searched for traces of humans everywhere. Those who took advantage of the prince's wedding to secretly run out to watch the excitement were killed cruelly because they couldn't dodge in time. Some 3-eyed people even took special tools, which were a kind of equipment with a slender tip, similar to a fishing gun. One shot could just penetrate a human's body. Then they strung him on the gun like a string of incense and continued to hunt the next human. The whole Nash country was already in a miserable and excited environment. Zhang Yi frowned and hurriedly protected Hua and hid in a place where he would not be discovered. He asked, What is going on? Don't be afraid. I'm here. No one can hurt you. Hua was pale and trembling. After Zhang Yi's comfort, she slowly spoke. The country of Nash will cleanse the humans in the city every once in a while. Usually it is either when the human population is too fast and cannot be controlled, or when it is a major festival. This ceremony, we humans call it blood sacrifice of the whole city. On this day, all humans in Nash are no longer protected and can be slaughtered at will. Zhang Yi was a little surprised. Oh, are you still protected on weekdays? Hua shook her head. Wild humans have no human rights, but some humans need to provide labor for them and will receive some protection. Zhang Yi took a deep breath. How long has this situation lasted? I don't know. This ceremony has existed since I was born. I have only experienced it twice, and this is the second time. In the shadow space, biology expert Zhou Kutter gave her own opinion. This is to control the number of humans. Humans are too adaptable to the environment, just like cockroaches, and it is difficult to completely eliminate them. So they will clean up periodically. Anyway, there will always be humans who can survive. Zhang Yi hugged Hua, listened to the screams of his peers, and slowly narrowed his eyes. Sure enough, it's just as I imagined. The big one is coming. He was originally still thinking about how to create unrest in Nash country and then draw out the combat power of the other party's high level. Now, isn't the opportunity right in front of us? Blood sacrifice the whole city, and the people of the entire Nash country will work together to clean up the humans. Then the hundreds of elites of the Zhangzhou team and other teams cannot hide, and conflicts are bound to arise. Zhang Yi thought about it and said to Hua, Hua, I will send you to a safe place, where there are your kind. Hua was surprised. Is it the temple of the human god religion? Zhang Yi nodded with a smile, and then he asked Mu Yan to open the entrance to the shadow space and put Hua in. Afterwards, Zhang Yi asked Zhou Kutter and others to take good care of her. As soon as she entered the shadow space, Hua looked at the strangely dressed humans around her with surprise and curiosity. There were members of Zhang Yi's team, and also the private soldiers of the Paji family, led by Cheongda. Her eyes gradually brightened. The messenger of the human god cult has come to save us. In Nash country, Zhang Yi stood on a high place, overlooking the Nash country built in a huge abyss. It was no exaggeration to describe the scene here as hell on earth. All the 3-eyed people were like crazy, hunting and killing the humans here. They dug every hole on the ground with force, and even smashed the walls and removed the beams to catch humans. In their eyes, humans are like rats, and they are the best at hiding. But at the same time, humans are a rare delicacy in their eyes. In normal times, only the nobles of the upper class of Nash country can enjoy this delicacy. A human being can even be exchanged for a slave of the Dwarf Hill tribe in the black market, that is, the creature that carried the sedan chair for Geneso. It is strong and is most suitable for hard labor, but the meat is sour and astringent, so basically no one eats it. Zhang Yi watched everything that happened in the city silently. He knew that the unrest had already begun, so he might as well add fuel to the fire. He took out a sniper rifle from the alien space. It was not a thunderbolt, but a silenced sniper rifle. The power of Thunderbolt was too great, and the silencer could not completely block its roar. And there was no need to use Thunderbolt to deal with ordinary three-eyed people. He stood high in the sky, set up a sniper, and began to hunt those three-eyed people. His hunting target was very simple. As long as the three-eyed people appeared in his field of vision, every one of them could be killed. Although this kind of creature also had civilization, it was not the same kind after all, so there would be no psychological burden in killing it. Puff, 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 puff. He changed the bullets very quickly, and the bullets were shot into the heads of the three-eyed people. Tiny bullets, relative to the huge bodies of the three-eyed tribe, were as slender as embroidery needles and as small as ant eggs. However, they were all poisoned. It was originally a poison that killed instantly, but their bodies were too big, so it would take a while for the poison to take effect before they died. Because of this, the three-eyed tribe members who were shot only felt that their heads were bitten by some insects, and they didn't care at all, but continued to hunt humans excitedly. But in less than 30 seconds, the poison began to spread in their blood and would quickly take their lives. Gradually, more and more three-eyed tribe members fell on the street. Boom, boom, boom. One by one, the huge bodies like hills fell down. At first, no one cared, just thinking that they fell down because they were too anxious. After all, hunting a group of rats, how could anyone die? But gradually, someone finally found something wrong. Because more and more people fell down, when they turned over their bodies, they found that they were all dead. Ah! A woman who was hunting with a frying pan screamed in fear. What happened? Why did someone die? Could it be those hairless rats? Impossible. How dare such weak creatures resist? They don't have the ability to kill us humans. Before he finished speaking, the man felt a pain in his temple, as if he was pricked by a needle. He reached out and touched it, and there was a trace of blood on his hand. He didn't care much, and when he was about to move forward, he stumbled 2 steps, and his eyes were completely dark, and the whole person fell to the ground. Chapter 1377: Humans vs. Three-Eyed Tribe. In Nash country, the war between humans and the three-eyed tribe began. But strictly speaking, it should be the war between outsiders such as Jang and the three-eyed tribe that began. The local humans have lost the courage to resist. The habit of being preyed on for many years and the huge difference in size make them dare not resist at all. Even if they are caught by the three-eyed tribe, they will only tremble and dare not even open their mouths to bite. However, Zhang, the funeral master, Gao Changkong, and the Knights of the Round Table are exceptions. They have enough power to fight against these giants. Fierce conflicts broke out in various parts of Nash country. Not only Zhang is fighting, but others are also fighting. But there is a very obvious difference in the middle. Zhang has the ability of ultra-long-range sniping and the ability to move flexibly. The people who were killed by him didn't know where the person who killed them was in the end. Zhang treated these three-eyed people equally and never treated them differently because of their strength or gender. As long as he saw the three-eyed people, he would kill them all, without any mercy or mercy. From the moment he saw them feeding on humans, Zhang understood that it was impossible for the two races to coexist harmoniously. This had nothing to do with justice and morality, it was just a fight for survival. Cheongda and others could also see everything in the outside world in the shadow space.
Cheongda
said to Zhang, Lord Chaos, please let us fight too. They were the most elite warriors of the Pudge family, so they were able to enter the demon abyss with Zhang. Even facing those powerful three-eyed soldiers, they had the strength to fight. However, Zhang decisively rejected them. You will only cause trouble for me if you go out now. There is no need to rush. There will be a time when you can play a role. Even Zhang himself did not exert his full strength. He was testing the foundation of the Nash kingdom. And Cheongda's cannon fodder is basically a disposable consumable, which is used to create chaos at a critical moment. Of course, it must be used sparingly. Cheongda and others heard this, but they felt that Jang was worried that they would be in danger, and they were grateful in their hearts. Jang didn't care about these. He killed happily at this time, and one shot was ahead. In addition, he was very concealed. Even if the strong men of Nash country found something wrong, they could not find his position. Elsewhere, Zhang felt the breath of Zhangzhu and others. After all, when their superpowers erupted, the power was too obvious. Zhangzhu, Gao Changkong, and members of the Knights of the Round Table such as Lancelot were forced to fight fiercely with the aliens of Nash country. Only Zhang did not face the enemy directly, but silently killed the three-eyed people one by one from a high place. Civilians, soldiers, men, women, the elderly, children, everyone was killed with one bullet. Soon, more than 1,000 people died in his hands. And he was very cautious, shooting a few shots and changing places, not hunting in one place, which also avoided the danger of being discovered by the strong men of Nash country. Compared with Zhang Yi's carefree and easygoing side, the other teams were not so comfortable at this time. Originally, they were also lurking in Nash country, ready to move when the opportunity arose. But once the blood sacrifice begins, the residents of Nash will dig deep into the ground, greedily looking for the delicious meat. This time they were forced to take action. Especially the monks of Songjia Temple, they regarded Nash as a devil and hated them very much. When they saw them slaughtering humans, they chose to take the initiative to attack. Wars broke out in various places. Although they were not at an advantage in size, those powerful aliens relied on their supernatural powers and weapons to slaughter many Nash people. On the Nash side, it seemed that they did not expect to be counterattacked by humans and lost a lot of people and soldiers at once. The news soon spread to the Holy Spirit Hall. In the palace, sitting on the throne was a very young three-eyed tribe. He had a delicate appearance, narrow and sharp eyes, a green tail casually draped over the armrest, one hand supporting the side of his face, quietly listening to the report of his subordinates. During this blood sacrifice of the whole city, our people were counterattacked by the hairless rats, some of which were strange hairless rats. They wore well-made armor and had weapons with certain lethality. They caused considerable casualties to our soldiers. Under the throne, a soldier commander knelt on the ground, lowered his head, and reported the situation to the prince on the throne, Nash Amlet. His huge body cast a large shadow in the palace, but even with his head lowered, he looked not much shorter than Prince Amlet. The Prince of Nash was much shorter than the ordinary three-eyed people, only about 5 meters tall. But his body was thinner and more symmetrical, not as strong as the commander under the throne, but with a natural beauty. The royal bloodline of Nash has extremely distinctive characteristics. They are born with smaller bodies and more powerful strength. No one dares to underestimate them because of their body size. Especially this Prince Amlet, who has shown his incomparable talent since birth. When he was only 7 years old, he defeated many of his martial arts teachers and became a famous and powerful warrior in Nash. Amlet quietly listened to the report of the soldier commander, but played with a set of black combat uniform in his hand. His eyes were indifferent, as if he was born without any expression on his face. There was a hint of interest in the strange and exquisite parts in the combat uniform. He ignored the kneeling commander below, but looked at the old man with silver hair and a hunched figure standing in another direction. Shuezong, have you heard of this hairless rat? Shuezong is the most knowledgeable person in the entire Nash country. He is in charge of the National Library and knows a lot of unknown history and knowledge. Hearing Prince Amlet's question, he bowed his head and replied, "Your Highness, many years ago, these hairless rats served us, asking for power from us, and at the same time dedicating their flesh and blood and loyalty, and we also gave them the power of the three-eyed clan. They learned to use weapons to fight, and up to now, they still exist as our slaves. It's just..." He raised his reading glasses and stared carefully at the combat uniform in Prince Amlet's hand. Then he shook his head and said, "This kind of thing has never been recorded in the books. I have to go back and check the books carefully to see if I missed it." Prince Amlet played with the small combat uniform, which was no bigger than a baby's clothes for him. "Oh, then you go and check it slowly. I am very interested in these guys. After that, he waved to the soldier commander below. Now is the time for my wedding, and the city must be stabilized as soon as possible. Go and call General Caliguan and let him take people to deal with those hairless rats. Chapter 1378 Giant Legion. After Prince Amlet finished giving his instructions, he stood up from the throne and walked to the back. The eunuch beside him hurriedly said, "Your Highness Amlet, Miss Janasso is waiting for you." Amlet glanced at him coldly and said lightly, "It doesn't matter. Let her continue to wait. Anyway, I just need a woman to make me king." He walked to the higher level of the Holy Spirit Hall with an elegant step. "When I have absorbed all the sacred substances, I will become a warrior of the same level as the ancestors recorded in history books." At that time, he raised his head and looked at the high dome. "I will ascend to the world outside the dome and see what the world there looks like." The eunuch bowed flatteringly and said, "Your Highness Amlet, you will be the greatest king of the Nash kingdom in 1,000 years." Amlet walked along the circular corridor to the highest level of the Holy Spirit Hall. After pushing open a huge bronze door, a dazzling red light came into his eyes. On a huge altar, a red gem was quietly suspended in the air. The vigorous power contained in it made Amlet's eyes sparkle with brilliance. Is this the legendary spirit of sacrifice? The name is translated from the language of the three-eyed tribe. Perhaps people call it the stinking stone in the cesspool. I thought it only existed in ancient history books and was something in mythology. Unexpectedly, it actually appeared. The eunuch said, "The scholar said that our ancestors relied on it to establish the Nash kingdom countless years ago. Your Highness, please rest assured that the harmful substances contained in it have been stripped out. It seems to be very effective for the slaves who have been serving us, so the king ordered it to be rewarded to them." Amlet stared at the huge red gem in front of him with an obsessed look. He raised his hand and felt the incomparable power before he touched the gem. The next moment, his expression returned to indifference again. Then he turned around and said to the eunuch, "Go out. No matter what happens outside, no one is allowed to disturb me before I absorb the spirit of the sacrifice." A cold light flashed in his eyes. "Whoever dares to disturb me will be executed." The eunuch swallowed his saliva secretly. The words of this cold-blooded and powerful prince were never a joke. "Yes, Your Highness." "No, my king." The eunuch stepped back step by step and left the hall. Then the huge bronze door closed slowly and heavily. In Nash country, the battle between humans and the three-eyed tribe became more and more intense. These three-eyed tribes, who usually regarded humans as livestock, suffered a strong resistance for the first time. They were a little unprepared, just like humans were attacked by rats in an organized manner. But even rats, as long as they fight back with the determination to die, will make people fear. The monks led by the funeral master, Gao Chongkong and other Garudas, and the Knights of the Round Table led by Lancelot all clashed with the three-eyed tribe head-on. There was also a sinister Jang who could kill people in seconds. He shot a kid with one shot and slipped away after killing them. No one could even see his shadow. Those who came here were the most elite troops of mankind at present. Their combat effectiveness and weapons were far beyond those of ordinary soldiers. After understanding the characteristics of the three-eyed tribe, they quickly gained the upper hand on the battlefield. After all, they were wearing cutting-edge combat uniforms and had various hot weapons in their hands. And their enemies were mostly three-eyed people holding primitive weapons such as knives, guns, sticks, and clubs. A counter-massacre began. On the side of the Knights of the Round Table, the private soldiers and mercenaries of the Ramin family were full of happy smiles and hideous faces. Seeing the tall giants in front of them being driven around by their weapons, their hearts were full of pride. Ha ha ha. These guys are no different from humans except that they are bigger in size. What underground tribe? They are just some primitive people. Kill, kill, kill. They had seen the tragic scene of the three-eyed tribe hunting humans, so they would not show any mercy. Even if they saw a 7 or 8-year-old child or a pregnant woman with a big belly on the street, they would directly attack and shoot them with intensive firepower. Puff, 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 puff. 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 No matter how huge the three-eyed tribe was, it would be quickly shot into a sieve when facing the concentrated fire of more than a dozen of the most advanced assault rifles. Boom. 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 The bodies of the three-eyed tribe fell to the ground like a hill. The streets were full of fleeing three-eyed tribes, their eyes full of fear. They didn't understand why a group of hairless rats dared to resist their hunting and even kill them. On the other side, some aliens had already jumped onto the high roof and started to set fire in the city. The buildings here were still built in the primitive way, mainly with stone, wood, and grass. After the flames rose, they soon burned fiercely and then quickly spread to both sides of the street. For a time, the whole street was ablaze, and the screams of the three-eyed tribe were endless. There was no mercy, nor was there any mercy. This was a battle between two tribes, a blood feud that had lasted for thousands of years. When the gate to the demon kingdom opened, it was destined that only one side could survive. Otherwise, sooner or later, they would also go through the gate to the snow region. By then, the snow region will probably also face the abyss of terror and despair. Kill, kill, kill. Everyone was bloodthirsty. Even the monks of Songjia Temple began to kill openly in the name of faith. Just as they were killing and setting fires, destroying everything, the ground beneath their feet suddenly shook. A soldier trembled, looking at the bottom of his feet, and immediately found that the dust on the ground was shaking regularly, and even the pool of blood formed by the blood of the three-eyed people next to him was constantly rippling. He subconsciously raised his head and looked forward. Behind the scarlet blood and fire, huge black monsters appeared one after another. They were a group of monsters that were obviously stronger than ordinary three-eyed people. They held uniform, slender, spear-shaped weapons in their hands, covered with black metal armor, and walked towards the street in a uniform pace. The army of Nash has finally arrived. The Nash nation, with a population of several 100,000, only had a standing army of 5,000 people, but each of these 5,000 soldiers was a strong fighter, with physical fitness and combat power far exceeding that of ordinary three-eyed people. There were only a few hundred soldiers on this street, and when they saw their compatriots being chased by a group of hairless rats, these three-eyed soldiers were furious. A three-eyed soldier raised a spear and pointed it at the dazed human soldier in front of him. Swish! A cold light shot out from the muzzle, and the next moment it pierced his neck. Chapter 1379. General of the Nash Nation, Kigan. The three-eyed soldier used a device similar to a spear gun. A thin, barbed hook shot out from the muzzle and pierced the soldier's neck directly. Then, with the switch pressed, the hook flew back with his body. This is a weapon specifically used to hunt humans. At this time, the swords, guns, sticks, and clubs are not as useful as it. The human soldiers realized that the real test had come. The combat effectiveness and equipment of a professional army are completely incomparable to ordinary people. Kill, There is no need to say more at this moment. Both sides want to take each other's lives. Two armies, one large and one small, charged at each other. As a result, the direct collision directly caused severe damage to the elite soldiers on the human side. Just like what Jang saw before, although the human weapons are sophisticated, the soldiers who cannot carry heavy weapons can't penetrate the most primitive metal armor of the three-eyed soldiers with the firearms in their hands. The bullets hit their knees at most, making them unable to straighten their backs in pain. But every three-eyed soldier is equivalent to an enhanced alien with an ability index of more than 3,000 points. Not to mention that there are warriors with superpowers. In terms of their physical fitness, their strength is improved to several levels with superpowers. Although the number of human soldiers is not less than that of the other side, they will collapse at the first touch when they really fight. Ordinary soldiers were treated as rats and strung together. Only the powerful aliens can still resist desperately with their abilities. Lancelot and others who were standing on the high ground and looking at the battlefield coldly frowned. These guys are really useless. I thought they could create some chaos and attract the strong men of Nash. I didn't expect that they couldn't even beat ordinary soldiers. Rebellious knight, Mordred frowned and said with disdain. Guardian Knight Galahad, a sturdy uncle in his 40s, smiled with his arms crossed. After all, the difference in size is too big. Fortunately, this country has a sparse population. Otherwise, I can't imagine it. If their population could reach 1/10 of that of humans, they could easily destroy any civilization in the world. Mordred turned his head and looked at the leader of the team, Judgment Knight Lancelot. Deputy Captain, these idiots are almost dead. Do you want to save them? Green Knight, Boss looked at Mordred teasingly. When did you care about the lives of these people? Mordred was a little annoyed. Some things still need these muggles to do, otherwise, do we have to attack the palace on the top of the sky directly? Lancelot finally spoke. That's right, creating chaos and looking for opportunities to enter the Holy Spirit Temple. This is what we need to do most at the moment. He looked up at the huge palace under the dome. A strong intuition told him that there must be something he wanted to get in there. That feeling was the same as when he entered Atlantis. Go. Clean this place up, Lancelot said. The members of the Knights of the Round Table around him showed either indifferent or cruel smiles on their faces and flew down one by one. Finally, they can do whatever they want. The three-eyed soldiers were still capturing the humans in front of them. Suddenly, they felt that their movements under their feet became heavy, as if something was wrapped around their calves, making their movements difficult. Looking down, the whole street had turned into a huge swamp without knowing when, and their heavy bodies slowly sank into it. What is this? The three-eyed soldiers struggled hard, but the harder they struggled, the faster they sank. Mordred sneered at them not far away. The more people struggle in the swamp, the faster they will sink. This is his ability, Muddy Swamp, which has the ability to turn any scene into a swamp. The three-eyed soldiers suddenly encountered this ability and struggled desperately for a while. Boom. At this time, a series of explosions suddenly came from the huge houses on both sides of the street. Huge. Trees suddenly grew from the burning walls. Green Knight, Boss, an extremely rare trait system. Plant system ability user, can summon huge trees to fight. A white figure jumped down from the sky, quickly stepped on these trees, and swept across the front of the three-eyed soldiers. Swish! The white light was a bit dazzling, cutting through the space sharply. Puff! 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 The huge heads of more than a dozen three-eyed soldiers flew high, and blood gushed into the sky. At the other end of the street, Lancelot, a glorious knight in a white combat uniform, landed gracefully, pointing his rapier at the ground, and a drop of blood slowly dripped. The joining of the Knights of the Round Table quickly tilted the battle situation towards the human side. After all, the Knights of the Round Table can now represent a higher level of human combat power. The three-eyed soldiers who were killed saw that the situation was not good, and someone immediately took out the flare and released it into the sky. The yellow fireworks were particularly dazzling in the purple night sky. Seeing this, the three-eyed soldiers who were still searching for human soldiers in the nearby streets immediately sped up and rushed over here. However, ordinary soldiers, and even some powerful aliens who came here, quickly became the corpses of the Knights of the Round Table. The burning streets were filled with the huge corpses of the three-eyed soldiers. There were many powerful generals among them. Lancelot stepped on their corpses, but his eyes were always looking at the Holy Spirit Temple. Is there still no movement in the Holy Spirit Temple? Should we send some powerful people to take action? It seemed to be responding to his words. At the end of the street, a pair of black military boots slowly appeared. Bang! 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 The footsteps seemed to step on everyone's heart. Lancelot raised his head and looked ahead with a defiant and cold look. At the corner of the second floor, they saw a pale face and a pair of dark eyes. It was a huge three-eyed tribe with a body of more than 20 meters tall. Even compared with his peers, his height was nearly twice that of others. But he was not ugly. Even if judged by human aesthetics, he could be called handsome. He had a fair and handsome face. His skin was as pale as if he had albinism, and his long silver hair fell to his waist. He was not wearing the black armor of the three-eyed soldiers. Instead, He was shirtless and wearing a long cloak. He was holding a huge two-handed sword in his right hand, dragging it on the street, making a harsh friction sound and sparks flying. That sword was more like a pillar than a sword, but the edge was polished a little thinner. But no one doubted that when it hit a person, the person would be smashed into a pulp if not cut in two. General Kigan, the royal guard of Nash, reports. Chapter 1380, Lancelot vs. Kigan. Kigan's appearance made everyone at the scene feel a sense of oppression for no reason. Perhaps this is the unique induction between the strong. That kind of momentum is not something that ordinary people can have. Of course, except for a guy who has always been committed to making himself harmless. Kigan stood on the street like a giant statue. He looked coldly at the large number of corpses of three-eyed soldiers on the ground, and then looked at the members of the Knights of the Round Table standing on the corpses, frowning with some disgust. Have some powerful individuals been born among the insects? I have said long ago that these ugly guys should be killed and should not be allowed to survive. Kigan raised the giant sword in his hand and chopped it directly forward indifferently. This sword was ordinary, without the gorgeous supernatural power, but it caused a terrifying sonic boom. The air was swept up by a long wind, blowing the surrounding houses to both sides. The power of a sword is so terrifying. Lancelot's face immediately became serious, but his eyes could not hide his joy. Finally, someone with some strength has come, huh? He whistled, and a dark long sword suddenly appeared in his right hand. Black flames swirled from under his feet, swirling into the air, covering his whole body like a hellfire demon. The knight swung his two-handed sword suddenly and collided with the giant sword that was several times larger than Lancelot himself. Boom! The tremendous power burst out violently around, and the houses on the surrounding streets were pushed by the terrifying power and flew in all directions. Even the members of the Knights of the Round Table changed their faces and fled the place as soon as possible. Nash's General Kigan, a top warrior, has an ability index of 19,000 points. The deputy leader of the Knights of the Round Table, Judgment Knight, Lancelot, has an ability index of 18,000 points. The members of the Knights of the Round Table quickly fled from here. It was difficult for them to intervene in the battle between the two powerful men. Moreover, at this time, Kigan's men had surrounded the place. A centurion, who was more than 10 meters tall, wearing silver armor and carrying a giant battle axe, walked slowly, with a scorching air wave from his nose. Now, it's time to get rid of insects. On the battlefield here, the Epsilon-level aliens of the Nash Kingdom finally appeared. The men on both sides also began to fight fiercely. However, the real winner was naturally the battle between Kigan and Lancelot. Kigan had a stern face, looking at the little Lancelot as if looking down at a bug. But even if it was a bug, he was merciless. The huge sword swept across the air, and the terrifying sonic boom could break people's eardrums, sweeping the earth and rocks through the air. Lancelot jumped up, dodged his attack, and landed above a ruin. If you look closely, you'll find a trace of blood overflowing from the corner of his mouth. Just now, it was just a head-on collision, and Kigan's powerful force made him bleed from his mouth. The three-eyed people were born with strong physiques that were difficult for humans to achieve, and Lancelot paid the price for it. But there was no fear on his face, but a bright look of excitement. He was a natural warrior who loved to fight against powerful opponents. And it was the first time in his life that he had fought head-on with the mysterious race of the underground world. This kind of pleasure from the heart, mixed with a tremor deep in his heart, made him so excited that he almost wanted to shout out loud, "Bug, who allowed you to look down on me?" Kigan looked at him coldly, and the sword attacked again, and he easily flattened the ruins in front of him with one sword. The surging wind was stirred by his sword, and the airflow wrapped around Lancelot, making it difficult for him to stand firmly on the ground. But he still stabbed his feet into the ground with force, leaving 2 deep gullies. Conger, glad. In his left hand appeared the guardian shield Glad, and in his right hand was the Dark Conquest sword Conger. This is one of his abilities, sword and shield. As a knight, This symbolizes conquest and protection, and is his glory. As the name implies, Conger has a strong killing power, while Grad has an extremely strong defense, which can remove the frontal attack force to the maximum extent. Facing the huge white giant in front of him, Lancelot laughed and rushed towards him. It was like an ant charging at a giant, but the speed of this ant was amazing. So much so that Caligulain also frowned, and he did not dare to be careless while being angry. He understood that the bug in front of him was extraordinary and was definitely not comparable to those bugs in Nash country who only knew how to steal food from the trash can. Boom. 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 His giant sword chopped down like a hurricane, and the sword energy enveloped all the surrounding space. Even the pressure of the sword wind made the earth shatter. At the same time, his big feet stomped down mercilessly, trying to crush Lancelot with one foot. Lancelot's eyes became deeper and deeper. Is this what hell looks like? Lord, I have seen the hell you predicted. Pitch. Black flames rose from the 666 tattoo on his right cheek. Endless flames spread around Caligulain like a black storm. Fallen ash flame. Lancelot believed in Satan and hell, and the flame he used was also the hellfire that could burn people's souls. Facing all this, Caligulain's face still did not fluctuate at all. In the blazing black flames, all kinds of complex illusions seemed to have appeared, making him see incredible things. But his eyes were still tough, and he just swung his sword and chopped down at Lancelot. Humans on the ground have all kinds of convenient services since birth. If you want to travel, you can take a car. If you want to hunt, you can use a pistol. The people of Nash are still living in a primitive way. They advocate force and believe that absolute power is the most important thing in the world. Therefore, Caligulain has been swinging his sword every day since he was sensible. He is a cold killing machine. The jumping Lancelot is just a fancy bug in his eyes, which can't affect his mind at all. The giant sword chopped, swept, stabbed, and cut. It was simple and unpretentious, but each move was extremely deadly. As long as Lancelot was hit, even if he was wearing the most advanced combat uniform, his body would be broken. Even if he was rubbed, some parts of his body would be rotten into meat paste. Caligulain, who had an absolute advantage in strength, simply disdained those fancy fighting methods. One force defeated 10 skills, which was the simplest kingly tactic. Dear viewers, this video ends here. Thanks, please subscribe if not already.